At 10:15 a.m. on December 14, 1931, a young, cocky RAF pilot named Douglas Bader climbed into the cockpit of a Bristol Bulldog biplane at Woodley Airfield. At 21 years old, Bader was the definition of alpha, a star rugby player, a crack shot, and a man who believed the rules of gravity were merely suggestions. He had been dared by some civilian pilots to perform low-level aerobatics, something strictly forbidden by RAF regulations. Bader didn't hesitate. He took off, stayed low, and attempted a slow roll just feet above the grass. But the Bulldog, a notoriously temperamental aircraft at low speeds, clipped its left wing on the ground. The plane disintegrated in a shower of wood and metal. Bader was rushed to the hospital, his body shattered. To save his life, the surgeons had to perform a brutal double amputation. His right leg was taken off above the knee, and his left leg below the knee. When he woke up, he was a man who had built his entire identity on physical prowess, now facing a life in a wheelchair. The RAF, a service built on physical perfection, promptly showed him the door, retiring him on medical grounds against his will. But Douglas Bader wasn't most men. He didn't just want to walk again, he wanted to fly Spitfires. To understand Douglas Bader, you have to look at his childhood. Born in 1910, he was a boy who thrived on aggressive energy. After his father died in 1922 from complications of war wounds, Bader became unruly. He was sent to Temple Grove School, a place known for its Spartan upbringing, where his competitive nature was forged. At St. Edward's School, he became a sports star, playing rugby and enjoying physical battles with bigger, older opponents. This same grit is what kept him alive in 1932 during his long, agonizing convalescence. He needed morphine for the pain, but he fought every single day to master a new pair of artificial legs. He learned to drive a modified car, play golf, and even dance, proving to himself and the world that he was not done yet. The arithmetic of 1939 was leaning toward a global catastrophe. As Hitler's shadow stretched over Europe, the RAF was desperate for experienced pilots. Bader had spent the last 8 years engineering his own recovery while working a desk job at Shell. He hounded the Air Ministry until they finally gave him a flight test at the Central Flying School. On October 18, 1939, Bader climbed into an Avro Tudor. The instructors watched from the ground expecting a cripple who would struggle with the rudder pedals. Instead, as soon as Bader got airborne, he turned the plane upside down in a perfect roll at 600 feet. He wasn't just back, he was better than before. If you want to see how a man with no legs became the most feared wing leader in the Battle of Britain, please hit that like button. It helps us rescue these forgotten stories of human willpower. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Back to Bader. Bader was posted to number 19 Squadron, and for the first time, he saw the machine that would define his legend, the Supermarine Spitfire. At 29, he was older than most of his fellow pilots, but he had an advantage no one had predicted. In high-speed combat turns, pilots pull massive G-forces, which drains blood from the brain to the legs, causing a blackout. But Bader had no lower legs, the blood had nowhere to go, allowing him to stay conscious longer and pull tighter turns than any able-bodied pilot. During the Phony War, Bader practiced formation flying and air tactics, often clashing with official RAF doctrine. He favored using altitude in the sun to ambush enemies, while the RAF dictated line-astern attacks. Despite the friction, his skills saw him promoted to flight commander of number 222 Squadron. In June 1940, over the smoke-filled beaches of Dunkirk, Bader scored his first kill, a Messerschmitt Bf-109. He believed that the German pilot must have been a novice, as it took only one burst to bring him down. By July 1940, the Battle of Britain officially began. Bader was given command of number 242 Squadron, a group of Canadian pilots who were demoralized after heavy losses in France. He walked into their hangar on his tin legs, pipe clenched in his teeth, and used his strong personality to cut through red tape, making the squadron operational again in days. On July 11th, in thick mist and drizzle, he spotted a Dornier du 17 alone on patrol and sent it crashing into the sea. Bader became the chief architect of the controversial Big Wing theory. Alongside Air Vice Marshal Trafford Leigh-Mallory, he argued for massing large formations of fighters north of London to inflict maximum damage on German bomber streams. While critics said it took too long to organize these formations, Bader insisted that massed power was the only way to win. At the head of the Duxford Wing, he led up to 5 squadrons into battle. On September 15th, known as Battle of Britain Day, Bader destroyed a Du-17 and damaged several others in heavy air combat. By the end of 1940, he was awarded the DSO and DFC, and his squadron had claimed 62 aerial victories. On March 18, 1941, Bader was promoted to acting wing commander and became one of the first wing leaders based at Tangmere. He insisted on flying a Spitfire equipped with 8 machine guns instead of cannons, believing that close-in fighting with smaller caliber weapons was more devastating. Throughout the summer, he led sweeps over France, scoring victory after victory against Jagdgeschwader 26, led by the German AC Adolf Galland. But on August 9, 1941, everything changed. While on an offensive patrol over France, Bader became detached from his section and found himself alone against 6 Bf-109s. He destroyed one, but as he turned away, he believed he had a mid-air collision. His fuselage and tail were gone. As his plane spun at 400 mph, he tried to bail out, but his prosthetic leg was trapped. Part way out of the cockpit, the air rushing past sucked him out until the leg's retaining strap snapped, leaving his right leg behind in the wreckage. The Germans treated their prized prisoner with immense respect. Adolf Galland invited Bader to sit in the cockpit of his personal Bf-109, though he laughingly refused Bader's request for a test flight around the airfield. In an act of wartime chivalry, Galland arranged for the British to drop a replacement leg for Bader by parachute. On August 19th, the RAF carried out the leg operation, dropping a new prosthetic to the Luftwaffe base at St. Omer. The Germans soon regretted it. Bader used the new leg to escape from the hospital immediately, tying bed sheets together to climb out of a window. He walked miles to a safe house but was betrayed by an informer and recaptured. He was eventually sent to Colditz Castle, a high-security camp for the most troublesome prisoners. Even there, he practiced goon baiting, causing as much trouble as possible for the guards. He once scolded a German officer for failing to salute him, his superior in rank, which landed them both in cells. Bader remained at Colditz until it was liberated by the U.S. Army in April 1945. He was in Paris the next day and returned to Britain shortly after, far earlier than other prisoners. He led a victory flypast of 300 aircraft over London in June 1945, a man who had started the war with no legs and ended it with 22 confirmed victories. After retiring from the RAF in 1946, Bader joined Shell as an executive. He spent the rest of his life campaigning for people with disabilities, visiting hospitals to show amputees that life wasn't over. In 1976, he was knighted by the Queen for his services to the disabled. Douglas Bader was a man of contradictions, arrogant, blunt, and often rude, but his willpower was unbreakable. He died on September 5, 1982, leaving behind a legacy that proves the only real handicap is a lack of will. Drop a comment right now and tell us where you're watching from. Are you in the UK, Canada, Australia, or Pakistan? We want to know our global community. Tell us if you knew about the leg operation or if you've seen a Spitfire fly. Thank you for making sure Douglas Bader's legend never disappears into silence. You are the reason these heroes are remembered.